Good evening, fellow participants of this great parliament. I would like to address myself as a frame of understanding the issue of humanity. Are there still universal values that bring humanity together? More essential, I suppose, is the question, is humanity itself a universal value that can evoke a sense of togetherness in the global community? Various significant attempts have been made to revitalize humanism as an underlying concern for reconfiguring a world order that human beings can live together in an inclusive society. The deliberate effort to transcend abstract universalism, in which harmony is misinterpreted as uniformity, and the seemingly all-embracing idea of common destiny is merely disguised as a strategy of domination, makes all sophisticated advocates of humanism in the 21st century wary about unilateralism. Understandably, the recognition of cultural diversity features prominently in virtually all humanistic thinkers today. Many humanists consider difference as a precondition for harmony. Harmony without uniformity, or more positively, harmony that tolerates, recognizes, and respects difference is the right path. Globalization is arguably a more intensified process of modernization. But in a deeper sense, it is also a profoundly significant departure from modernization, not to mention westernization. The spatial idea of the West and the temporal idea of the modern both implied a developmental strategy that leads to convergence and even homogenization. Yet, globalization also enhances localization, nationalization, and regionalization. It enables us to see a whole new spectrum of color, sound, smell, taste, mood, emotion, and sentiment associated with ethnicity, gender, language, age, place, class, and faith. Human community has never been so differentiated. As a result, thick descriptions of our lived concreteness are required. Thin declarations of global ethics are not enough. But I should note with gratitude the works of Hans Kuhn and Len Swidler. And at the same time, due to advances in science and technology, especially information and communication technologies, humanity has never been so interconnected. How do we envision harmony in diversity in a differentiated and interconnected community? I would like to offer spiritual humanism as an initial way of understanding this problem. From this humanistic perspective, humanity is differentiated from and simultaneously interconnected with all modalities of being in the universe. It is unique, but inseparable from everything else. The evolution of the human in its most authoritative story, known to the scientific community to date, is a microcosm of the microcosmic narrative of the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago, involving the emergence of the sun and the earth. In the planetary scale, the emergence of life, animals, and the human species is also an integral part of the same narrative. In this sense, to say that heaven and earth are our parents is to underscore the commonality of our ancestry. We are aware that as children, of the same origin. We are destined to face up to the challenges of the future as we have traveled ever since the paleontological era together. We must learn to develop a shared vision of the global community to deal with major threats to our survival and flourishing. Environmental degradation, poverty, gender discrimination, economic injustice, social disintegration, and political conflict loom large in the world today. Given the increasing complexity of human interactions in the 21st century, all religions must learn to cultivate a new general cosmopolitan language in addition to the specific languages of our faith communities. In this cosmopolitan language, the sanctity of earth is taken for granted. In my personal view, it also takes for granted that our universe is saturated with intrinsic value and numinous beauty. The reality cannot be proved by empirical data, nor can it be grasped simply by deductive logic from natural sciences, such as neurobiology. Rather, it is a religious faith, which may or may not be theistic. The critical issue is to recognize that it has taken billions of years with fine-tuning of all the elements, air, water, soil, and numerous other factors, for us to emerge for so brief a moment. We can dismiss the whole story as senseless. We can follow major and minor creation stories to accept the thesis that there is teleology, meaning purpose, in our existence. Of course, there are numerous other options. We should not simply reject naturalism and materialism offhand, but we should have faith in what I would call the objective reality that there is meaning in life and nature has intrinsic value. Spiritual humanism rejects the anti-theistic position. It finds in some rational humanist projects there is dignity and decorum, but, quote, no deeply humanizing community of life-sustaining joy, end of quote. Indeed, the hope that physicists and astronomers eventually will answer the ultimate question when they discover the theory of everything is too optimistic and, I think, too simplistic. The grammar of theism strikes a sympathetic resonance in spiritual humanism. Places such as cathedrals, churches, temples, mosques, synagogues, and hymns, songs, prayers, dances, festivals are beyond the pretensions of scientific, philosophical, or theological control. All three great monotheistic religions have spiritual resources and intellectual depths to inspire us to sing songs of hope and express our gratitude to divine love. They have made profound contribution to human religiosity. Nevertheless, spiritual humanism may be theistic or pantheistic, but it embraces atheism and a variety of vitalism characteristic of most indigenous traditions as well. It differs from monotheistic religions in some essential ways. As I've noted, it takes the sanctity of the earth for granted. It subscribes to the idea of the continuity of being. By implication, it does not believe there's an unbridgeable gap between the sacred and the secular. It regards the secular as sacred. In other words, the life world is in itself intrinsically meaningful, It is where the ultimate meaning of life is realizable and ought to be realized. To be a spiritual humanist, we are rooted in earth and community, especially the family. Our body is the proper home for our mind, soul, and spirit. We learn to be fully human through earth, community, and body. Our spiritual transformation is not a departure from where we are, but a journey to the interiority of our being. Paradoxically, the innermost core of our being, the source of our own self-knowledge, is none other than the microcosmic reality ingrained in our existence. Surely, earth, community, and body constrain us. They shape us into concrete forms. We are inescapably earthly, communal, and bodily. Hitherto, spiritual traditions in general have instructed us to free ourselves from these constraints. A great human aspiration is liberated from the mundane bondage to escape from the prison house of the soul. In spiritual humanism, these are also considered enabling constraints, the vehicles that carry us forward to our destiny. They are instrumental in offering each of us unique paths for self-realization. Without them, we cannot exist in any concrete sense. They are our incarnations. A human being so conceived is not a creature, but an active agent in the cosmic transformation as an observer, participant, indeed co-creator. Even though there may not be a creation ex nihilo, out of nothing, the creativity since the Big Bang has never been lost, but accumulated in every segment of the evolutionary story: sun, earth, life, animal, and human. We are the inheritor of the cosmic energy. We are charged with the responsibility to see to it that it has been endowed in our nature, continues to give generative power to new realities and life forms. Spiritual humanism believes that human life has transcendental meaning, that there is mystery to be comprehended, and that theism, as well as other manifestations of the human religiosity, teaches us to rise above secularism. We are finite beings, but in our finitude, there is the constant presence of infinite divinity. Spiritual humanism is faith in humanity. The task of learning to be fully human is to form one body with heaven, earth, and myriad things. For there is intrinsic unity between immanence and transcendence. This may very well be compatible with creationism. For humanity to become a universal value, every member of the human species is enjoined to cultivate sympathy, empathy, and compassion as the core of self-understanding, and the power and the proper way of treating others. Do not do unto others what you would not want others to do unto you, is the golden rule for all human interactions. The dialogical mode is commonly accepted throughout the world now. The politics of domination has been replaced gradually, hopefully, by the politics of communication, cooperation, and collaboration at the international, regional, national, and local levels. The rhetoric and practical dialogue are pervasive, even though in numerous areas, conflict and tension overwhelm dialogue, and dialogue is sometimes thought to be ineffectual, impractical, and indeed impossible. Promises of the emergence of a dialogical civilization and the rejection of arrogant unilateralism are being realized in international politics. The perceived dialogue, the dialogical term, bodes well for the emergence of a humanistic vision in the 21st century that empowers universal quest for holism among 4 dimensions of the human condition: self, community, nature, which means the earth, and heaven. Deepened and deepening subjectivity that integrates the body and mind of the self in psychology, fruitful interaction between self-realization and social service in ethics, sustainable and harmonious relationship between the human species and nature and ecology, and mutual responsiveness between the human heart and mind and the weight of heaven in religion. Human survival and flourishing depends on the inventive and responsible acquisition of information, knowledge, and wisdom to enable the spirit of dialogue to prevail as a precondition for the cultivation of understanding. Thank you for your attention.